Welcome to JuCo Softball After Dark, your home for everything JuCo softball. I'm Abby.
I'm Joe.
And this is Walter the dog. Welcome to episode 5. This week we're going to catch up with the Wallace Hanceville coach and 2 players that are playing Division II softball at St. Leo University that used to play junior college. Now we'd like to welcome to the show Sallie Burch, the head coach at Wallace Hanceville. Sallie brings a few years of coaching at the 4-year level and a couple years coaching at the JuCo level. So we're excited to see what she has to say about both. Hey, welcome to the show. All right, so tonight and this week we are going to focus on the truth about the JuCo path and what it's like, and kind of the big difference you can see from the coach's perspective from the junior college level to the 4-year level. So the first thing that I wanted to ask you is, can you tell us about your coaching journey and how you got to Wallace Hanceville?
Yeah, so I played at Wallace, so in 08-09, and then I transferred to Jacksonville State, stayed on there as a GA for 2 years, and then I was a volunteer for 2 years. And then in 2017, when AJ Darty got the job at Wallace, he offered me the assistant job. So I came back to Wallace for 3 years, left him, went back to JSU, and I was the pitching coach for 3 years. And then AJ called me again when he went to UAB, and he was like, "Hey, will you come be the associate head coach?" I kind of wanted to get out of pitching, so I left JSU, went to UAB for 2 years, and then he decided to leave and be an AD in our conference. And so I was like, well, I need a job. And so I talked to Wallace, talked to the AD, and that's kind of how I ended up back for my 3rd trip.
Awesome. Well, welcome back to the JuCo world.
I'm glad to be back in it.
Right. So having been recruiting in the 4-year sphere and the JuCo sphere, can you tell us what the major differences you're seeing in the tasks that you have to do when you go out recruiting in general, right? Because we have more experience from the JuCo world, but we'd love to hear what it's like.
I think the hardest, the biggest difference is obviously, you're recruiting 4 to 5 kids most of the time every single summer. So you're going out and you're making a list of, 27s, 28s, 29s coming up this season. And you're like, okay, well, I got to have a catcher in the 26 class, and I've got to have I got to have 1 pitcher in the 27. I might need to add 2 in the 28. So it's kind of more, listed out of, you've got to have these certain people. And so that's what you go after, that position, quote unquote. Whereas our turnover is completely wild, so I lost 3 last year, which is not a ton to lose, but most of the time you're losing 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I think that's the hardest thing is, you got to have 2 or 3 pitchers in every class. You got to have 2 catchers in every class. So just making sure that you have that roster filled out completely. I think that's the biggest difference. And then obviously, like, we flew so much, for UAB and JSU to go to all these tournaments, and I don't have that personal budget to go because a lot of time, me and my assistant recruit on our own dime. And so I think that's probably the biggest is we don't travel as much for recruiting. We try to as much as we can, but it's not easy, recruiting on your own dime.
Mm-hmm.
So what about some of the stuff, like, let's say out at a travel ball event or talking to high school coaches, how do you feel like, or do you get a different feeling from them from once being a Division I coach, now being a junior college coach? And
absolutely,
we all know how these travel ball coaches can be sometime, right?
They
always got the perfect player for you at the junior college.
To like, oh, my kids don't play JuCo, and I'm like, yeah, like 3 of them will, but that's okay. We can keep going down that road. But for sure, I mean, that is definitely something, and I don't think it's necessarily meant to be, but you definitely feel kind of, I guess, lower than, wearing this logo compared to the other 2 that I've worn.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't think it's meant to be. Just the ignorance, right? For lack of a better term, of not knowing what's out there from a junior college perspective. And
right.
And we've talked about it before, it's more sexy to put a big logo up on your social media and your website and all that kind of stuff. So
absolutely. Where if they'll come to us, they can be 120 something games of experience. And the pitching is different. Obviously it really is. The speed of the game, I think, is the biggest difference in the game, within the game that we play. And pitching's obviously going to be better at that level, but if it's in, hit it. If it's out, hit it.
Yeah, for sure. So, what do you think the biggest misconception out there is about junior college in general?
I think it's just seen as just a JuCo. I think that's the number one experience that I see as a coach is they're like, well, I don't want to just go JuCo. And so when I'm recruiting, I try to talk about, I try to treat my kids like we're not just JuCo. And I'm sure, the three of us have been in this game for a long time. You can kind of see we don't have those same budgets. So for a long time, we didn't have good gear. We didn't have great facilities. And now, I mean, it's just pouring. I feel like JuCos are pouring into their facilities. We were talking last week about Mississippi JuCos and just how nice their stadiums are, their buses, the way that they travel. I think it has changed so much across the board from when I played in '08 to it no longer being just a JuCo. And I think that's based on who you schedule, how you practice, all of those things. If you practice elite and you get them prepared for that next level, it shouldn't be called just a JuCo.
For sure, for sure. So with that, having coached at the 4-year level and you get to see them kind of develop as junior college players, and then as the 4-year coach, you get the little perfect little nested egg ready for you.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think it is that some players out of junior college really thrive and then you see some of them really struggle?
I think because they have their, now they're like, okay, well, I'm going JuCo. And when they're not that starter that first year, they're like, okay, why did I come here? I could have went to a D2 and I chose a JuCo over a D2. Or I could have walked on at a D1 school, but I chose to come here and I'm sitting. I think that's probably one of the hardest, realizations for them is they're not where they're at yet. And they think, well, if it's just a JuCo, why am I not playing? I would say, to me, that's the biggest thing that stands out to me off of that question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's a big thing that you see it on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now all the time of people telling go junior college so you're guaranteed playing time. But it doesn't work that way. Like it's
not if you're competitive.
Yeah,
not with the program you're trying to build on a national level.
Mm-hmm. So I guess the hot topic is JuCo the backup plan or is it the smart plan?
I think, unfortunately, it is the backup plan for quite a few people.
Mm-hmm.
But, I listened to y'all's podcast from last week and just to hear the joy of them talk about JuCo, I don't think you realize how good JuCo is until you're in it. I think it's just one of those, from coaching, I've had multiple people just be like, I love Wallace. I wish it was a 4-year school. I wish I could go back, but while they're in it, they don't always see it that way. And so don't knock it till you try it. But it's just, I feel like that's going to be a continuous battle for all of us coaching in this field is, come here, get better. And, you can leave after a year. If somebody calls and gives you a good scholarship, that's my job to get you to the next level. So I'm all about getting them to the next spot, but come work hard and let's get better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing for a lot of these kids, right? Is who's going to come into this junior college, with a little chip on your shoulder, right? You got overlooked for whatever reason, or you weren't ready, right? But who's going to come in and truly use it as a stepping stone to develop and get better and that kind of thing, and who's doing it to have fun, right? Oh, it's just a JuCo, I'm going to have fun and that kind of stuff. Which we all want to have fun, but being a good player and winning is fun, right?
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, and I think it's ideal to find those players who, especially recruiting, to have a little chip on their shoulder, right?
Oh.
Which is different when you're recruiting D1 players, right? They don't have that chip because they know they're pretty good and everybody told them how good they are.
Yeah.
Right? So,
and I was so fortunate in my career with just really good humans to be around in both spots that I was at JSU and at UAB, just really good human beings to coach. But, you hear it more and more that D1 level is just like, what can you do for me? What can you give me? What can you offer me? Where's my gear? Where's XYZ? And, at my place, it's like, Are we going to be able to afford that this year? Kind of thing. It's like, can we raise enough money to do that? So I feel like, they really learn what it's like to work to get things to be proud of, like doing the field work, that kind of stuff, that you never have to do at Division One. All those things. We don't have a ton of managers, so picking up trash, whatever it is, I feel like you learn a lot of humility and just to be a bigger person and to do the extra thing. Whereas sometimes at the bigger levels, that's kind of hard to teach all the time.
Yeah. And I think you kind of touched on it already about budgets and whatnot and fundraising, right? So a lot of Division One or even Division Two, they aren't really fundraising. Can you tell us a little bit? I know I've had to fundraise, he's had to fundraise. Can you tell us, kind of what that looks like as far as, what you're doing and what you are used to?
Yeah. So this is just kind of funny. Our Under Armour budget at UAB is equivalent to my current budget total at Wallace State. I mean, so if that just tells you that's just gear for Under Armour compared to what we work with. So I usually do all of our camp money. We don't take any of it. All our camp money goes to the program. We do about 2 different fundraisers. So I visited you last week on fundraising money, and obviously took them to Disney. That my school's not going to pay for that, but so I try not to bog them down because you have to do it so much in high school. So I try not to make them do all of these things, but camp money truly helps too. But yeah, not a big budget. I feel like people think we have a big budget because we got a really nice complex. We got nice buses, nice uniforms, but it's like, we put a lot of work into that.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that's kind of overlooked at our level, especially some of the nicer JuCos. They're like, oh, well, they just have all this money, and you're like, no, not really. Actually, had
Yes.
to work really hard to get this money
Yeah.
and to be able to afford this, 4-year life experience for the players, so
I
they can
remember
feel like they're at a big school.
Yeah, I remember at when I was at JSU as a player, the first time we go out to eat somewhere, and it was a nice restaurant, and I was like, "So what's our limit?" And they're like, "What are you talking about?" I was like what's our limit that we can order? And they were like, "What's one appetizer for the table, and then like you order whatever you want." And sometimes they'll let us split a dessert, and I'm like, "What?" I'm waiting on coach to be like 13 or under.
We were literally just talking about this earlier. It's like, biggest struggle I had was, which grape flavor peanut butter and jelly am I gonna make for myself today at JuCo versus, same experience here. We got on the bus for a trip when I played at my 4-year, and they're like, okay, we're gonna stop at Chick-fil-A for breakfast. I'm like, whoa, you guys are getting us breakfast?
Yeah.
Thing? So yeah, definitely big difference there.
Absolutely.
So, can you tell us a little bit? Obviously, we got to see Wallace Hanceville play last week. Tell us a little bit about your team, what you're seeing. We're only on week 3 of ranking, so
yeah.
Obviously everyone's kind of moving around. Preseason, you guys played a pretty good, tough schedule to start off, and should be rolling around into conference play here soon. So, can you tell us a little bit about your team?
We start conference next week. I returned a ton. I lost one starter off last year's team. Now she was significant. She was, she led our team in ERA. She was my starting shortstop, and she was my backup pitcher. So she was the real deal, and she's pitching now in Division I at Sanford. And so that was a huge loss. And so I feel like right now our bats are hot. I feel like they have been pretty consistent all season. We're struggling a little bit in the circle with our returners, and I think they just got to find their footing. I think last year it was so new, and they were just like, okay, well, I'm just going to go out here and hope it works out. And now when it worked, and now they're putting that pressure on them. And I feel like once they can like settle in a little bit, we've got a chance to be pretty good. So, but our league is tough. I think for a long time, Alabama was like, okay, it's all Wallace State. That's all everybody talked about. And I mean, now, we, Northeast is ranked number 3. They're undefeated. Their facilities are amazing. They have, if you ever get a chance to go up there, it is a nice facility. And they've put a ton of money into it, and they did a great job recruiting. I mean, they have great coaches. SEC experience. Jimmy, was at Oregon and Arizona State, and Joe's been a little bit everywhere. So just great facilities. Gadsden's got a new facility. They've got 2 pitchers. They've been getting some votes. Northwest Shoals beat Florida Southwestern not opening weekend, but the weekend after. So I feel like it's way more competitive, which I love. You want softball to be great all the way around you, but I don't, when I played, it was kind of a cakewalk for us, and it is not like that anymore in our league.
Yeah, for sure. We were actually just talking about that the other day about, would you rather have a cakewalk and be, 28-0, or would you kind of like to lose a couple games early on in the preseason? And I think we're all on the same page, at least the three of us, is like, give me the biggest challenge you've got right now so that we're battle tested when it comes to the end of the year.
And I know people pay attention to the rankings, and it's going to hurt me that we have D2 losses. But we talked about that the other day. I don't care if it makes my team better. We have 5 losses on the season. Everybody's ranked that has beaten us, and 4 of those games are 1-run losses. So that made my team better, right?
Yeah.
It made my team way more hungry to come into, all right, we won't lose like that again. So I appreciate those losses. If you don't lose, you can't really learn.
Yeah, well, especially for you guys. I mean, because yeah, you guys are D1, but your scholarship model is the same as the D2s, right? If you
Exactly.
and we've talked about that on another show that that's the only difference, right? Is
Yeah.
that you're either allowed a housing stipend or you're not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in Alabama, for example, you guys choose to play D1 or D2.
Right.
And it's the same in some other states as well, to where everybody's on the same scholarship model. So I think that's that's another thing people don't when you hear these things about D2 and D1 and that kind of stuff in JuCo, and it's not the same, right? It's NCAA Division 1 and Division 2.
No.
It's strictly a scholarship model. Look at the Mississippi schools. I promise you, they got more money than a lot of Division 1 JuCo
Oh, absolutely.
around the country, and that
Absolutely.
kind of stuff. It's more of a funding model, and for you guys to lose to a D2 who's on the same scholarship model as you should really have no bearing on
Right.
anything that's going on, right?
Whereas if people go and play them, I mean, they're going to make you better. So
Yeah.
jump
No,
to
and
Pearl
people,
River.
there's some Florida JUCOs figuring out that some of these Mississippi D2s are pretty good here in the last few weeks. So.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but I'm excited. I mean, like I said, I feel like our conference is pretty loaded for the first time. There's not going to be an easy week for us. So a lot of good pitching from what I hear. So.
Well, you never know. I guess we'll find out in the next week or two, right?
Yeah.
Conference play.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for catching up with us.
Absolutely.
We love to have. Thanks for being our first female head coach.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I told Molly, I was like, yeah, you're roping me into this.
Yeah.
Before we left the field today, I was like, hey, it's tonight at 6:30. Like, you going to get on? And she was like, no, I'm good.
Lame.
She is.
But, we like, just spreading the knowledge of junior college softball around, and, having to get some information from obviously all the schools around the country. Clearly, we're good at the Florida area, but
yeah,
good to hear from the rest of the country, because, there's some good schools out there.
Absolutely.
And, we like to hear from you guys.
Yeah. My motto is make a difference where you are. So it don't matter what school, go get your school paid for.
Yep.
So I have 0 debt. And you talked about that too.
I've got 0 too.
Yeah.
0 debt, and I was a JuCo kid, and somehow got my master's paid for. So
same. After chatting with Sallie Beth, I think something that's really an interesting part of our conversation is JuCo a backup plan, or is it the smart plan? So what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it varies for each player, right? I think for the those 1%ers that are going to go and contribute to a Division I program as a freshman, which there's not very many of them that are doing that these days. That's the right choice for them. But for those who aren't quite developed and that kind of thing, it's never anyone's dream, right, to go junior college. But the best option for the majority of high school players is to go the junior college route and mature a little bit, get in college, get in the college weight room, and develop and get, for hitters, getting 150 to 200 at-bats a year for 2 years to prepare themselves to go into a 4-year school and be able to contribute right away.
Yeah, and I think backup plan is like maybe not the best term for it. I think it's something that maybe when you're going through your recruiting process that you see, okay, hey, like I'm not developed enough in these certain areas so that I can't necessarily make it at that 4-year school. and that maybe junior college is not necessarily a backup plan, but the smart plan as, okay, this is how I'm going to develop and this is how I'm going to get good enough to go play at that dream school or the school that you think that you should be playing at, right? And I think that, you know, backup plan might be great, or the term that some people use just because that's kind of what they think of it, but I think it's more or less thinking about where you are in your recruiting track and, you know, what tools are you bringing to the recruiting process, and then again, what are you trying to get back out of it? And then sometimes junior college is just the best route for that.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of kids, it's, you know, they have to have some self-evaluation, and I think for a lot of them, especially coaching and out recruiting, you know, it takes some players and parents even more so probably, too long to understand that JuCo's the route, right? I mean, you know, you can spend tons of money going to all these big logoed camps and that kind of stuff, and getting out there is, you know, as much as you want to, but at the end of the day, if you're not ready to play at that level, you don't get recruited at that level, no matter how many camps of theirs you go to. And I think, you know, it ends up getting stressful for players because they're so locked in on the D1 or bust, and they're wanting to, you know, they want to play at that level, right? Which is exactly what they should want to do, you know. But I think, you know, the earlier people can start realizing, hey, you know, I'm probably not that player right now. I want to be. I'm going to go develop and figure it out at a junior college. The better their recruiting process is going to be.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that one of the big things is, like you said, the parents, like understanding that there are other options out there and that sometimes that is the best fit. And one of the best things, or one of the most common things I always would say when I'd go out recruiting is like, everyone goes to junior college for a reason, whether you're missing or need the development, the finances, or the academic piece. It doesn't really matter. Everyone's story is a little different, which I think is great why we kind of talk to a bunch of different players as often as we can. But just understanding that, you know, junior college is going to bring a lot to the table for you, even if it's not your first option, and it shouldn't be your first option. If you're a freshman in high school, I want you to dream big. That means you're going to work hard. You're going to try and get to that number one school in your dreams. And then as time develops, you'll kind of see, okay, like you said, self-evaluation, like, okay, where do I really fit into this, and how can I get to those levels that I'm dreaming of? And, you know, obviously, like, we would love players that want to go junior college too, but it's, you know, finding that right sweet spot of accepting when is junior college the right time. And, you know, do you think there's a right time for when junior college players or future junior college players should start to kind of say, okay, yeah, this is where I should go?
You know, I don't know that there's a set time, but since there's this one date that's out there, this whole September 1st thing that everyone wants to tweet about and that kind of stuff. Actually, someone asked me about that at a camp that we had, and it was a little bit after September 1st, and, you know, the parent said, you know, hey, when should these kids start, you know, thinking about junior college as their option and that kind of stuff? And I said, okay, how many of you guys are juniors? And they raised their hand. I said, how many of you guys got a phone call on September 1st? And they all put their hand down. And I said, now is the time to start thinking about junior college.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's not, you know, not to be mean, right? But at some point, players that get a call on September 1st knew they were getting a call on September 1st. No one got surprised with a phone call, right?
Yeah.
You know, so if by that time, if you're not having some serious conversations with coaches, or your travel ball coach or high school coach is having those conversations with coaches, then, you know, you might want to, you know, come to the realization that, you know, that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. And I think that also goes with, that doesn't mean after September 1st, you commit to that junior college, like September 1st of your junior year, you commit to that junior college that you might have been like, oh, okay, I guess I'll go there. You know, I think, you know, September 1st, maybe give it a little bit of time. Okay, see, you know, all right, my friends are kind of starting to get these, and it's not a comparison game, but it just kind of gives you an idea of where all the schools are kind of at. And then it's like, okay, let's open up my horizon a little bit to a couple more options and start the process again that you did for your 4 years, right? You did your research, you did your this and your that, and hopefully, I mean, you might know a little bit about the junior colleges, but, you know, after September 1 or your junior year, it's a great time to start doing some research on, okay, there's 23 junior colleges in Florida. Not all of us have softball. Some of us do, you know, a lot of us do. You know, there's schools outside of the state of Florida if you're from Florida. You know, there's the scholarships packages are different than NCAA. And I think that's just kind of the time that we need to start thinking about, okay, let's start the process over, kind of. Let's go ahead and start evaluating what my junior college options are. And then, of course, later on, maybe a D2, maybe a D1 rolls around in this time that you're researching, and that's great for you. But then that's also the time that you need to say, okay, like, they didn't reach out to me then. Now they're reaching out to me. Like, am I the backup plan for them? And is that what I want to be? Or is it like, I always say, recruiting is kind of like dating, right? You have to both like each other, both want to be with each other for it to be a good relationship. If it's one-sided, those usually don't work out pretty well, last I checked.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, kind of a rule of thumb should be, they have to want you as much as you want them.
Yeah.
Right? If you're going to every single camp they have and sending them emails and reaching out to them all the time and you're not hearing much from them, understand that, right? I mean, it doesn't mean that you're not a good player. It means that at that point in time, they're not ready, right, to move on. You can't want to come to us so bad without getting some reciprocation from us, or else you're gonna, kind of be left hanging there at the end.
Yeah. So I think it's okay if junior college is your backup plan to start, but for a lot of people, and I think for most people, it is the smart plan, financially, academically, and developmental wise, right? Like, junior college now becomes your avenue to become a better player, and it's, you make the most of it, right? You can't make chicken soup out of chicken shit, so you need to invest into, when you do decide that junior college is the option for you, it's like, okay, when I'm doing my research, like, who's going to make me better, who's going to give me those tools to be the player that I want to be. And it's all about, now that we've decided that it's no longer the backup plan, it's kind of the smart plan and the route that we should go. So I think those are all like food for thought for, any high school player, high school parent of their daughter trying to figure out, okay, well, like, what's, this junior college thing, it sounds great, but like, what is it really? And what does the timeline look like for my daughter? And I think there's just not enough information out there. As much as I feel like we both have gone out recruiting and we spill out the same information over and over and over again, I still feel like there's a lot of people that just aren't informed.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's lacking knowledge of what's going on. The biggest thing I can tell you is there's not, whether it's the best option or whatever, there's not one negative to go in junior college.
Mm-hmm.
There's not one negative as an athlete to go junior college. It's going to be fairly affordable because of the scholarship. Even without a scholarship, it's fairly affordable. Mm-hmm. If you're in the state of Florida, we're all state colleges now. You're in the same curriculum as every public Division I and Division II school in the state of Florida. So it's funny how sometimes I'll get something that, they'll be like, oh, academically, it's not a fit. And I'm kind of like, well, actually, academically, it's the best fit for every single person. Because now, back when I was in school, it was for JuCo was for dumb kids and kids who got in trouble. Now, we have the 4-year programs and that kind of stuff. So there's no, and most of us have bachelor's programs. So you could get in your first 2 years, start a bachelor's program if that's the case. So there's, again, it can be a really, really good route from a softball or a sport perspective. And it's never a bad route academically, no matter how much you may or may not want to go junior college.
Yeah. Now we'd like to welcome to the show 2 former JuCo players, Izzy Laroche from Seminole State College of Florida and Juli Stachowicz from State College of Florida, Manatee. Now both playing at St. Leo. Welcome to the show, guys. All right. Hey, guys. Welcome to the show.
Hey.
Hi. All right. So as some of us know, or some of us don't know, Izzy and Juli, you guys are both at St. Leo University, and you guys both have very different stories. So Juli, I know you only played 1 year of junior college. Izzy, you played 2. Mm-hmm. The first question is, why JuCo? Why did you guys pick junior college?
Pretty much, it was the only thing that was open to me. I wanted to come down to school in Florida, so my mom found me a camp at CF. So that was kind of just the only route that was open for me at the moment.
Okay.
I just like to go with the flow. So I kind of just went with what wanted me, and that was Seminole State. You wanted me a lot at the time. So I just chose that because it seemed nice. It was away from home, and I wanted to get a little bit further away from home than what I was, but not be too far at the same time. And I didn't really have any like D1 dreams. If it were to happen, it would happen, but I just chose what chose me.
So both of you going to different schools, what surprised you the most about junior college?
I would say how we had a lot of things that were very strict compared to what I'm dealing with now, but also it was very laid back. Like they didn't really care a lot about practice times. It was kind of just go with the flow day by day kind of thing, which was very shocking to me.
I wasn't really that surprised with most of it because I didn't know what I was like gonna expect. I went in with like an open mind, so I wasn't expecting anything too special or anything too down below,
Okay.
I
So
guess.
what was the transferring process like? So obviously, Izzy, you finished your 2 years, you had an AA, so that was probably a little bit cleaner transition. Juli, obviously going into school, I know you're in nursing school right now. So can you guys tell us both about your different experiences transferring to the 4 year level? Obviously, academics are important. The softball piece is important. Kind of start from the beginning. What was the recruiting like, getting admitted to the school, and then obviously being there now?
So after my season was over my freshman year, I didn't know if I even wanted to continue playing softball in college. So that was kind of something that as coaches were reaching out to me that I was like, oh my God, like actually people want me. So I would go to all these visits and stuff, and I was very upfront and honest with the fact that like I wanted to be a nurse, I wanted to go to nursing school. So obviously, if that didn't work with that school, then it's just not something that I was willing to make work. So I ended up having to choose between here at St. Leo and Valdosta. And as soon as I came to visit St. Leo, like I fell in love with the coaches. They were all very open with the fact that they're willing to work with me with nursing. And I didn't get to meet any of the team, which sucked because I transferred and was recruiting in the summer. So I base my decision purely off of the coaching staff, and I just fell in love immediately. And it was very easy to transfer all of my credits, even all my credits, because I did college credits. In high school, it was very easy to transfer everything. So I had no issues with that and being admitted and getting into housing and stuff. Everyone was very helpful with all of that.
Izzy, what was your experience?
Um, Basically when I transferred, I just wanted to be closer to home because my dad had just had a kid, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go home closer and spend more time with my family. So I came on a visit to St. Leo and I was like, oh, that's close enough. So I immediately went. I didn't really have an idea of what I wanted to do school-wise, but I always had just, I don't know, I kind of just go with the flow most of the time, which isn't a good habit, but I do it. So I just decided on business and they have that here. So I just decided to jump in and do it. And here I am.
So, Julie, how tough has it been juggling the nursing program with softball?
It's been a lot, especially right now since we're in season and I'm starting like 7 hour clinical days. Like I just had a clinical this morning. Thank God it wasn't 7 hours today, but it's a lot. All of the exams, I've missed a few classes. So that's been a lot to try and have to cover everything myself. So it's definitely, you have to have great time management.
Yeah. And Izzy, how's your academics going? Obviously, you guys are in the middle of season. You've always been a good student, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I get my work done. I do study hall. I enjoy study hall. It's a good time to get everything done because we do that here, which I also did at Seminole. But it's nice to go to the library. It forces you to do your work because I don't have a good attention span really that much. So I go there, I get my work done, and I'm done for the week by at least Friday. Then I get my time off on the weekend when we're off.
So, what is something that junior college players complain about that 4 year players would never understand?
We had to fill up our own water for game days and for practices. We had to walk over to our baseball field, fill it all up with ice, fill it up with water, and then have to walk it all back to the softball field. No golf cart, no help, just us and another teammate. So that pretty sucked. That sucked a lot.
Okay. All right. So, I guess we're gonna ask you guys some rapid fire questions.
Thanks.
All right, Julie, you ready?
I guess.
All right. Favorite pregame hype song right now?
Oh boy. I like country, so Somewhere with You by Kenny Chesney.
Early morning lift or late night practice?
Early morning lift.
What was the best JuCo softball road trip snack?
Cheez-Its.
One word to describe JuCo softball.
Hectic, but fun.
Toughest place you've played at so far?
Like here or at JuCo? Like,
Either one.
I would have to say at Seminole. I didn't like your guys' field.
Who's the funniest teammate on your team?
Izzy.
One thing JuCo softball does better than 4 years.
I feel like it's more closer because everyone's like closer in age.
Favorite post-game meal after a doubleheader?
Chick-fil-A.
All right, you ready, Iz?
This is
Yeah, I guess.
This is gonna be fun. All right.
Yeah, I'm ready.
What's your favorite softball memory so far?
Ooh. I really loved when we went to Georgia and we had like 7 home runs in 1 inning. That was crazy. And then the alarm went off. It was awesome. Super
All
fun.
right. Infield or outfield? Which one is harder?
Infield.
Pitchers or hitters? Who's more dramatic?
Hitters.
Sunflower seeds or gum in the dugout?
Gum.
Walk-off hit or diving game-saving play?
Walk-off hit.
One thing people don't understand about JuCo softball.
The work hours.
Team bus karaoke song.
Ooh. Pitch Perfect remix. Like the riff off is gonna go good.
If you weren't playing softball, what sport would you play?
Volleyball.
What's your favorite uniform combo?
Here,
You can do both.
all black. Makes
All
you
right.
look skinny.
Describe JuCo softball in 3 words.
Fun all day.
All right. Good job, Iz.
That's pretty good, Izzy.
That was way
Thank
better
you.
than I expected.
Thank you.
All right. Well, those are all the questions that we have for you guys. Thanks for tuning in and helping us out here and giving us some insight from you guys' point of view.
Anytime.
Now it's time for the Week 2 rankings. We have a new number 1 in Division 1. Grayson College moves up from previous number 2. Number 2, we have Northwest Florida dropping down 1 spot. Number 3, moving up from number 4 is Northeast Alabama. Number 4, coming from number 5 is FSW. And number 5, dropping down from number 3 is Indian River State College. This week, we've got Eastern Florida jumping up 6 spots to number 6. Miami-Dade joined the rankings from previously unranked to number 19. And Blinn fell 6 spots from 7 to 13.
All right, for the D2 rankings, Murray State College remains number 1, followed by Pearl River, who makes a jump from number 4 to number 2 this week. Jones College comes in at number 3. LSU Eunice, number 4. Copiah Lincoln, number 5. Phoenix had a big week. Phoenix jumps up to number 9 after a sweep over Pima this past week. And then we also have Hines Community College, Mississippi Gulf Coast, and South Mountain joining the rankings for the first time this year.
Thanks for tuning in this week to JuCo Softball After Dark. Check us out every Wednesday on Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube. Have a good week.
See ya.